Hey everybody, this week's Torah portion is Parsha Tetzaveh, and this past Thursday, many people around the world, and specifically in America, celebrated the holiday of Valentine's Day, if you can call it a holiday. Now, many years ago, not so many actually, about 50 years ago, there was a company in Japan that decided, it was a chocolate company, and they wanted to increase their sales, so they decided, let's bring this holiday to Japan and convince people to buy their significant other chocolates. Except that there was a little bit of a miscommunication or misunderstanding about how the holiday was celebrated in America and around other parts of the world. And they were selling the concept of buying chocolates for your man, meaning girls go out and buy chocolates for your significant man. Beautiful. So all the men are getting chocolates. Now that was great, and not so long after that, a marshmallow company decided, let's try to capitalize on this also. And they went on a strategy of trying to convince everybody to now do the reverse. So now that you spent Valentine's Day, all the women out there bought chocolates for their men. Now, a month later, on March 14th, we're going to have something called White Day, where all the guys will now buy marshmallows for the girls who gave them chocolates. So the girls are buying chocolates for the guys, and the guys are buying marshmallows for the girls. And we have two beautiful holidays that were made up really for one reason, to sell chocolates and marshmallows. Great. No big deal. Except that it lacks any substance to it, because at the end of the day, the whole thing boils down to people trying to make money. Now, in our Torah portion this week, we find the exact opposite of that. Every single article of clothing that the Kohen Gadol, the head priest, used to wear had very deep meaning to it. So much so that every part of it had to symbolize something. And I want to tell you about one of those parts. The Torah tells us that on the hem of the robe that the Kohen Gadol used to wear, there were little bells around the hem, and next to every single bell was a little replica of a pomegranate. So you would have a bell and then a pomegranate, bell and then a pomegranate, little design, until the entire hem went around with bells and pomegranates. And the rabbis say the bells were to symbolize, when they would ring, they would symbolize what? They would symbolize the concept that we should sometimes be making noise. So for example, when we study Torah, we should be talking about good things and complimenting people and studying Torah and praying and use our mouths to speak about good things. And the pomegranates were used to remind us about the opposite, not to use our mouths for things that were not kosher. So the bells which made noise reminded us to study Torah and pray and do things good with our mouth, and the pomegranates reminded us not to do bad things with our mouth. Now what's troubling about that is it makes perfect sense why bells would remind us about making noise, because bells make noise. But how do pomegranates remind us not to make any noise? What does a pomegranate have to do with making no noise? And to understand this, we have to take a very good look at a pomegranate. A pomegranate is a very interesting fruit in the sense that the seeds are the fruit. The pit is the fruit. What is bad in other things is the very thing that is good in this. And sometimes when we make noise and talk about people, what we're doing is just that, or the opposite of that. We're looking at somebody and seeing the bad in them. What the Torah is telling us is, with the pomegranates, that if you want to know the secret to not saying bad things, it's to look at what you look as the pit in the person, and understand that there's something good about that also. For every bad flaw that there is, there's a good component to it too. So for example, if somebody's always late to things, they're also usually very laid back, and that sometimes is a very good thing. With every bad trait comes a good component to it, and that's the lesson of the pomegranate, to stay silent and not speak badly about people when we understand that sometimes those very bad things that we are ready to speak about also have a good part to them. On behalf of Makarave, Shabbat Shalom.